Hello, good morning. I'm going to read from Living Clean. Today's my birthday, I turned 41. I'm going to do the reading, I'm going to get through the day clean, celebrate another year clean and sober. It's a good feeling, so let's go for today's reading. Even though it's a Sunday, today's chapter is called Work. While the steps help us to become better people, service is one way we learn how to function in the world again. Many of the skills we learn in service translate into our working lives. We may sometimes feel like outsiders or imposters in our jobs, but in NA service we are full participants. We don't second guess our primary purpose or our right to participate. In a fellowship where the ultimate authority is a power greater than ourselves, we learn how to work with others as a peer with something to offer and something to learn, rather than seeing ourselves as an authority or a victim. We learn to channel our energy in a constructive direction, and we can practice staying focused. We stretch beyond our current abilities and find that we can survive and succeed even if we are not perfect. Service counteracts selfishness and increases our feelings of self-worth. We learn to step back and think before we respond. Not everything that affects us is personal, and we don't have to return fine every time. NA gives us a safe place to make mistakes, find out who we are, and learn how to relate to people. The things that make us defensive or self-righteous tend to be pretty much the same wherever we go. We see our character defects manifesting and find humility, make amends, or just change course and start over. Everyone makes mistakes. Promptly admitting when we are wrong shows integrity and responsibility for our actions. The experience of service helps us take on responsibilities and learn to meet them as we go. We learn to sit still and listen and to make our voice heard when we have something to say. We start to feel we can take our rightful place in the world without feeling fear or shame. As we practice these principles in all our affairs, some of the distinctions between who we are in our work lives and in our recovery lives begin to fall away. One way we practice these principles is to be of service to our employer. Some members have asked themselves, how do I practice unity at work? How do I let my higher power be in charge during my workday? What is the primary purpose of this workplace, and how can I help achieve that? What is my primary purpose here? Whatever our job is, when we can see it as an opportunity to practice our principles, it becomes a worthy use of our time, a member shared. Responsibility used to feel like a burden to me. Learning to see it as a way to do my higher power's will made it feel like a privilege. With spiritual principles as our guide, we can be an asset wherever we are. Often the people around us see our value before we do. Perhaps most of all, when we are spiritually connected, creativity flows through us. This doesn't necessarily mean that we paint or make music through it. It can. But that we can see solutions to problems and find satisfaction in doing whatever we do as best we can. The transition from NA to work is not always seamless. We may be really shocked to find that outside NA the third tradition does not apply. We are not members of other groups just because we want to be. We may have to earn our seat at another table, and there are some places we may never be accepted as we would wish. Additionally, what would seem perfectly natural with our NA friends can be inappropriate or even shocking elsewhere. We are conscious of how we share our feelings and our histories. We learn the difference between friendships, recovery relationships, and professional relationships. And we begin to understand that we can alter our behaviour without having to compromise ourselves. As we advance in our step work, we are more capable of acknowledging our progress in other areas as well. The humility that we learn in the steps helps us find where we belong in the world. We start to feel that we are no better or worse than anyone else, even at work, and that our gifts are useful. One member talked about finding a job that suited his skills and ills. When we find the right environment, we see that we can be distinguished by some of the things that used to make us more uncomfortable about ourselves. Some of us are naturally industrious, and others are really good at sitting still and being present in the moment. Either one can be an asset or a defect, depending on how we use it. The guilt of being unproductive and stealing time at work feeds on itself. On the other hand, the drive to stay in constant motion can be a consequence of fear. When we don't take time to reflect on what we're doing and how we're doing it, small mistakes can add up quickly. As with everyone else as with everything else we do, we seek a healthy balance. Our issues may differ, but the principles we practice are the same. Some of us never worked before we got clean, and for others of us, work was all we did. By the same token, some of us don't need to work for financial reasons, and some are too disabled to be able to work steadily anymore. Still, we can benefit from keeping a schedule and being accountable. We may resist structure in our lives, but it can help us enormously. We are, after all, creatures of habit. When we feel we have a purpose that gives shape to our days, we are more comfortable with ourselves and our lives. Our work can be something we do to fill time or to pay the bills, or it may be one of the primary ways we define ourselves. Those of us who have work that is meaningful or valuable to us are fortunate. It's a goal many of us work toward, and when we feel that we're doing a good job at something that matters, it brings a deep satisfaction. Whoever we are, wherever we come from, we have something to offer. Our work ethic is the collection of habits that determine how we use our time. When we set our minds to something, we can be exceptionally determined. Few people are ever as driven in their lives as an addict in search of a fix. When we learn to turn that determination toward healthy goals, we can achieve amazing things. We know if we do something regularly, it will become a habit for us. What begins as discipline develops into habit, and eventually it becomes a pleasure. There is danger in this method, however, substitution can be deadly, especially when it seems to be working for us. The hallmark of our disease is progression. When we notice that our relationship to an activity has allowed us to justify unmanageability elsewhere in our lives, it's probably time for a good hard look at our actions, our motives, and our steps. We can be haunted by feelings of inadequacy well into our recovery and spend our time and energy trying to prove ourselves or to live up to an unattainable and imaginary standard. We may swing between being very insecure and eager to please and resisting the most basic rules and requirements of a job. Our lack of self-acceptance shows when we can't take compliments. When we feel bad about ourselves or unworthy, we tend to overcompensate. We may find ourselves covering for others or taking undesirable shifts for fear that we are somehow more expendable than others. I excelled at work, said a member, but I still didn't feel responsible or productive. Inadequacy haunted me. It can be hard to tell the difference between a genuine desire to do better and performance that's driven by fear. When fear is driving us, we may notice that procrastination becomes an issue. We are afraid to finish what we start and begin making excuses. When I get close to the end of a project, it feels like I'm in a wind tunnel. I don't know where the resistance comes from, but it's so strong I can barely get my feet under me. We can have so many ideas and so much unfinished business that making a decision about what to do next compounds our anxiety. One addict shared that he felt like a quarter horse in a 1 mile race, a great starter but a really poor finisher. Sometimes we can even use our defects to our advantage. For example, we may beat ourselves up because we procrastinate what we fear. We can also use that energy to get a lot of other things done. I am really more productive than when I am procrastinating, said one member. I might get the whole house clean because I'm putting off studying, or I'll get the bills done because I don't want to have a hard conversation. But all that effort spent on busy work doesn't get us closer to our goal. Sooner or later, we must admit the truth and deal with the thing we are avoiding. Most of the time, the avoidance takes much more energy than the doing. Efficiency is the result of clearing out that defective stuff that drains us of our time and energy. We strive for balance and we find it in different ways. When we get more comfortable with ourselves, we are more comfortable with others as well. Our willingness and humility show as a genuine desire to do better no matter how well we are doing. Not because we have something to prove, but because we care. We can practice principles in the workplace without being naive or overly eager to please. As we stay clean, we develop a new history. Our colleagues may not have seen us in desperation and might have no reason to guess that we are addicts in recovery. We don't have to let go of our anonymity to integrate who we are into our careers. That's a choice we can make for ourselves. We are human beings doing our best to be responsible and productive. Working can become an alibi for not practicing our programme. We have heard many issues that we will lose anything we put in front of our recovery, and many of us have experienced this with jobs or material things that seem to make recovery obsolete or inconvenient. When we are using the tools available to us, we can see the challenges we encounter in our work as opportunities to practice our programme. Applying the principles never makes life worse. When we are not practicing our programme, our problems become magnified. Unreasonably, we feel overly responsible, obsessed and compelled to keep going, even when a break might be the thing that would give us needed perspective. We are successful members of society in and out of the workforce. We have as much integrity toward our jobs and the people we serve outside the rooms as we do inside the rooms. And that's the point. When we practice these principles in all our affairs, we bring so much to the world. It's not just a theory or another awful lecture about our potential. It's our experience. It's what we do. Cool. That's the end of the chapter. Just want to share that with you. Share the cover. That's Living Clean. If you want to get yourself a copy, read the book, stay in recovery just for today, no matter what. We do not pick up a drink or drug, even on birthdays and Christmases. Thank you. I'll leave it there. Enjoy your day.